July 6, 2025 is the rock bottom date that will reshape college athletics. So whether your child is trying to get recruited, already in the NCAA transfer portal, or playing Division I right now, this matters. Because that day, institutions must turn in their lists of designated student athletes, that's DSAs, and they are exempt from the new roster caps. So stick with me, let's dive into this, and let's get started. Hi everybody, once again I'm Coach Keith Mondillo. I spent 30 years in college athletics as a director of athletics and head basketball coach. I've seen a lot of things in my 30 years, but I've never seen firsthand what this House settlement is about to do to college athletics. This changes everything. But before we dive into that, are you worried that a coach didn't reach out to you after a live event? Don't panic. This happens all the time. And there's a smart way to respond. And how do you do that? Download my free guide. 10 steps to take when a coach doesn't call after a live event. What you'll get are proven follow-up scripts that get noticed, steps to re-engage the right way, and then checklists that top athletes are using to stay on coach's radar. Get it now before you waste another weekend. So what is the July 6th deadline? Let me break this down in the clearest way possible, because most families I've talked to have never heard of this deadline, and it's going to change the landscape of college sports. So by July 6th, 2025, every NCAA Division I school that's part of the House settlement must submit their list of athletes called designated student athletes, or DSAs. We talked about this in my last episode. Think of DSAs like this. They're the only athletes allowed to be above the new cap roster for each sport. And once that list is submitted, it's locked in. You can't add to it, you can't swipe out names, and you don't get a redo. So if an athlete is not on that DSA list by July 6th, they count against the roster limits. And if the team is already at that cap, well, unfortunately, that athlete is cut, told to transfer, or left without a spot. So what are the new roster caps? Let's say your child plays one of these sports, and I'm going to put these up on the screen. Here's the maximum number of roster spots each team is allowed under this new settlement starting in 2025. And we're going to go through these. These are hard caps. No more oversized rosters. No more let's carry an extra walk-on or two just in case. If you're not on that DSA, you have to fit inside that number, period. So a sport like football, who usually carries somewhere around 120, 130, 140, especially at those Power Fives, their roster limit's 105. For a sport like baseball, most Division I schools, they usually carry 40, the most 45. They're capped at 34. And then a sport like track and field, which is relatively unlimited in the past, you're going to be capped at 45. So there's going to be a lot of student athletes looking for a home. So the ACC, Big 10, Big 12, Southeast Conference, they're what we call the new Power 4 conferences. And plus Notre Dame. They're required to follow these rules. Other Division I schools, they can choose to opt in. But let's be clear, most schools will opt in because the financial incentives are massive, especially if they plan to share revenue with athletes. So this deadline is just not a big school thing. It's going to touch every corner of recruiting, from the top Power 4s all the way down to Division III schools who will soon be flooded with some former Division I transfers. Here's what makes the July 6th non-negotiable. Once a school turns in that DSA list, it can't be changed, like I said before. There's no second window, no appeals, there's no flexibility. So the athletes who are left off that list lose out on roster protection. This is more sounding like a collective bargaining agreement like in the NFL, NBA, etc. So for families, this means the end of a college athletic career before the season even begins. So if your child's in the portal or even currently on a Division I roster, you need to be asking the question, am I one of those DSAs? If the answer is no, or you don't know, you need a backup plan. Let's talk about Division I roster implications. Division I schools can now award unlimited scholarships, but only up to their roster cap. Football can now offer up to 105 full scholarships. But if you're not a DSA, you count against that 105. Money reallocated, schools like Texas A&M plan to increase scholarships. From what I last read, from about 255 to about 410, but must cut total roster numbers by about 20%. The walk-ons, you're going to get hurt first. So who gets tagged? DSAs are typically high-impact athletes, starters, top reserves, major NIL earners, bubble players, injured athletes, and walk-ons. Well, they're the ones who are at risk. What bubble players face if you're not tagged, you count towards that cap. For borderline players, walk-ons, or injured spots, you're really vulnerable. So let's talk about transfer portal volume. Let's kind of put this in perspective when it comes to real people. I did some research. As of April 21st, there were 2,320 men's basketball players in the NCAA transfer portal. That's an 11% increase from 2024. And from what I understand, it's a new record. By the closing date, April 22nd, the total had reached nearly 2,700 entries. As of June, more than 1,129 players had committed to new schools. So if you do the math, that's roughly 1,600 additional players were still uncommitted or still searching, heading towards that July deadline. Why this matters? Limited roster spots. With Division I programs capped men's basketball at 15 roster spots, many current roster players, even those already on a team, will count towards that cap in July. Only athletes tagged as DSAs are exempt from the cap. All others, even current players, must fit inside that 15-player limit. With the portal with 1,600 players still uncommitted, Division I coaches have far more candidates than available spots, even before considering the DSA status. Many players in the portal, despite talent, will either have to transfer down to Division II or III, find a JUCO college, or probably try and go pro internationally, or risk falling through the cracks entirely. So let's talk about some strategic implications. From the player and family's perspective, if your athlete's still uncommitted in this summer, they're competing in a vast, overcrowded market. The DSA tags matter more than ever before. Without it, the chance to secure one of those 15 roster spots is low to almost impossible. For coaches, you have to triage portal entries and prioritize who really belongs inside the cap. Roster analytics, fit, and upside become critical in evaluating hundreds of portal candidates. Once again, this is turning into a professional sports model. Bottom line, post January 6th, over 1,500 men at the Division I basketball level remain in the portal, none of whom have a guaranteed spot. With strict 15-player roster caps and limited exemptions, many of these athletes are entering a bottleneck where alone talent may no longer be enough. Now, it's about fit, timing, DSA tagging, and proactive communication. So transfer portal options. Come July, cap-filled schools will dominate Division I rosters. If you're on the portal but not a DSA at your old school, you may have zero options at your first choice. 3 real landing spots, like we talked about earlier. Division II and III coaches are already starting to scout. You jump to a junior college, get 1 season, build your stats, build your highlight film, and transfer. And then 3, stick with Division I, but your options are limited. Timing is strategic. Once rosters are set by July 6th, schools shift focus. The next 2 weeks, now is the window. Use it. What if you don't get tagged? Current Division I athletes, take notice. Once you're left off, there's no scholarship and there's no roster designation. You may be asked to transfer or walk, depending on the roster limits. Some immediate steps: schedule a one-on-one with your coach now and ask, am I a DSA? If the answer is no, begin conversations with Division II and III coaches and portal prep immediately. And as we talked about, this domino effect will trickle down to the Division II and III level. Division II and III programs will now field rosters filled with Division I players, ex-Division I players. Tougher competition for current recruits. More selectivity for Division II and III coaches now more than ever. And now they prefer 4-year college experience over that raw high school talent. A high school recruit targeted at mid-majors now must beat out a Division I rebounder. Solution: show maturity, clarity, and readiness to learn. The roster chaos will be this summer. It'll be crazy. Families might be blindsided by this fallout. Communication breakdowns between athletes and coaches. Some coaches may not communicate effectively, and some athletes might not understand. Some of the long-term effects: walk-ons will nearly disappear at Division I. Coaches will invest more in the designated athlete with NIL, money, resources, and development. Scholarships move from access to elite value, and high school players need a razor-sharp edge positioning to compete. Some action items. If recruited, ask coaches how many DSAs are planned. Where's my spot? If in the portal or a current Division I athlete, have your DSA conversation now. Then activate Plan B. If targeting Division II and III, embrace the competition. Be the player coaches want on their roster. I know that's a lot, and I know this is coming up in the next week. So let's be on top of it. But before we go, download the free guide. And like I said before, you worry that coach didn't reach out after the live event. Don't panic. This happens all the time, and there's a smart way to respond. It's the 10 steps to take when a coach doesn't call after a live event. And again, you'll get proven follow-up scripts that get noticed, steps to re-engage the right way, a checklist that top athletes are using right now to stay on coach's radar. Get it now before you waste another live weekend. The link is in the description below. And if you want full clarity on positioning and recruiting strategy, grab the Parents Recruiting Survival Guide. It's an essential book that every family should have, whether you're beginning the process, in the middle of it, or just wrapping it up. This isn't a setback. It's a filtered battlefield. Families who understand this shift will come out stronger. If you like this, please subscribe, comments with your questions, and remember, we are not a recruiting service. We are educators and strategists. I will see you in the next episode. Take care.